And so we're live, guys. Good morning. And Market Mashup, Rolland Market Mashup. Go to our YouTube channel and subscribe. It's October 30th, so it's basically the last trading day of the month. And it's been an awful week. It's really been an awful month at this point because of this week. Yesterday, all the big companies had their earnings. And even though the earnings, for the most part, I thought were pretty good, the market is just selling off hard, aside from Google. Dad, you want to go into the earnings? I know you probably looked into
it. I mean, we were talking a little bit before we went on the air, but the bottom line is these companies that have run up to tremendous levels had great earnings for the most part. Less guidance because of the COVID, and that was part of the issue. But in general, the market sold off in almost every case after the earnings came out. But if you look at them, Apple, Amazon, definitely Google. Google was the only one that really had a big move. All were better than expected with, minor tweaks here and there. So, and Twitter was the disappointing one, I think, of everything that came out. But with this kind of market, after big run-ups, it's difficult to get excited about stocks even after they've had great earnings. And it shows you the difference between the great companies and the great stocks. At some point, they have to merge together. And that's why I think you're seeing the movement you're seeing today. It's kind of what I've been saying about Zoom, where it's a great company, but the stock is way ahead of itself, and the company may never even catch up to the stock.
Yeah. So, I mean, just to kind of go through the list here, the only stock out of all the names you just said that is up on their earnings is Google. They're up nice. They're up over $100 right now, which is about 7% for them.
And they're within striking distance of their all-time high now, which I think was 17,030 or so.
And honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if you possibly see that today. I mean, who knows? But, and then yesterday, I know we went over a bunch of companies, but there was a bunch of crazy reversals that happened midday. Like, I was watching Penn, and that stock went up like 6.5% and then ended up closing down a couple percent, which wasn't really surprising. The stocks had a hell of a run, but it was just interesting to watch. And then Netflix yesterday came out towards the end of the day and announced a price hike, which I think everybody knew about, but it caused a huge volume spike. And the stock went from like 485 to 510 in the afternoon. And, that's kind of getting beaten back down today. And I mean, the one thing that I was telling Mike stood out to me a little bit when the earnings calls all came out was just Facebook reporting a decline in users for the first time ever in US and Canada. And obviously they said it was because of the pandemic and everyone was just so at home the last quarter that they lost some users and that'll probably stabilize. But it just kind of shows that Facebook, as far as at least what they're accomplishing in North America, their growth is kind of, it's behind them. At this point, everybody who's going to be
I don't think their growth's behind them at all. There's only so many people in North America.
Well, I mean, I should rephrase that. Their user growth is
in North America, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, how long has Facebook been around? It's tough to keep growing here when everyone's on the platform.
No, I know. And clearly
what happens then, the stock, when it's basing its price on subscriber growth and all of a sudden the subscriber decline, then you have to readjust. Now, it may be that they start growing, like you were saying, Mike, in India and all these.
And WhatsApp monetization and whatever else is coming with them with video that we haven't heard about.
They have to make that bridge, and they have to make it successfully. And they'll probably have more competition when they go overseas.
Come on, Dad. We're talking about Mark Zuckerberg. He acquires any company he needs to, and we don't hear about most of them. They have so much money and data. I find it hard to believe Facebook is going anywhere but up consistently. I'm not concerned.
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, they're clearly not selling off that much right now. Maybe that'll change at open, but they're basically flat when you really think about it. I mean, they're where they were before their run up yesterday, and they are essentially a little higher than where they were when the market flushed out on Wednesday. So nothing's really happened with them yet. And
yeah, but these companies can't just keep going up exponentially. The amount of money you can make in a Facebook, maybe it's a double over the next 5 years. I don't know, but it's not going to be a triple or a quadruple or 10 times your money. Those days are probably over. And there's a lot of stocks you can put in that category.
Yeah, I think stocks that you probably can't put in that category are Snapchat and Pinterest.
Yeah,
And
it's not as big a company.
yeah, and those are honestly going to be stocks that you probably want to look at on days like maybe today and Monday when they're going to just inevitably get caught up in the sell-off. Like even when you look at what happened with Pinterest yesterday, I'm kind of just long-term on Pinterest, so I'm not in and out of it. But I saw it was way off of its highs in the afternoon. And at some point, when the market gets back in action, that's going to be one of the first stocks, I think, that's going to get right back to the highs that it was literally at yesterday.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And, there's a lot of non-fundamental things going on in the market with the election. So companies that are great companies are getting hit for reasons that go beyond the balance sheet, and that involves people's own capital gains. So there's people out there that are getting called by their advisors, and their advisors are saying, look, you have a big capital gain. If Biden wins, there's a good chance next year that capital gains tax is going up. There's a good chance that the corporate tax rate is going up. So that's an immediate discount on the entire market in stocks that, first of all, if you have huge capital gains in them, like the Apples and Microsofts, the Google, all of them basically. Take the whole tech sector in general, and that's where all the profits are. That's why, to a certain extent, the industrials and the cyclicals in general are acting better now because there were not big gains in those names. So that's what I think is going on, a shift. So if these people sell to take their capital gains, that money has to go somewhere. And if it's not going to cash, it's probably going in the cyclicals. And overall, you have this possible 8% or whatever number it is increase in corporate taxes. And that's just a general discount on the entire market if that happens. I mean, you can have the market at the same level if the tax rate is higher, because the returns on all these stocks will be less.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point. And just to get to some other earnings here that I'm just kind of going over from yesterday. So Starbucks is selling off a little, but it looks like they had a beat and the revenues came above expectations. And it looks like they're also having a pretty good forecast for 2021. So obviously their stock's down $1.38, which isn't much. You can easily make the argument if the market was up today, Starbucks would be up too. But that'll be another name to keep an eye on. And another name that what are your guys' thoughts on Starbucks?
Yeah, I've been long Starbucks for a long time, and I sold the 90 calls against it. So I'm basically flat as long as the stock doesn't drop away, from here. I think it's okay. I don't think it's anything real exciting. Maybe it works its way towards 100 over the next 6 months, but I don't know.
Not like a major growth story, but just a stable company.
I don't see it being anything dramatic in the next year.
I think Java, which we never even talk about, I think it's JCA or JVA, is an interesting stock to keep an eye on in the years ahead. If you want to look at a potential high flyer with coffee that is completely under the radar.
Yeah. Starbucks made a long-term plan in China. And I think over time, it's really going to pay off for them.
Yeah, Starbucks coffee is terrible. I love their breakfast. That's it. I love their snacks. I can't stand their drinks.
No,
I
agree with you. I think some of their cold drinks are okay. But
yeah, I just eat there. Like I love those the breakfast egg white bites. They're phenomenal. I think they've done a great job with their food, but I've never liked the coffee. You know, I just got out of Dunkin', so I was looking at JVA yesterday. It just popped on my radar, so that's something I'm keeping an eye on, possibly dabbling in. It's definitely way riskier, but when you talk about next level return potential between the two, that one could be.
I still think though Starbucks does have that China connection.
Well, yeah, but you're not going to get. It's just going to be. It's a nice holding, sure, but you're not going to make much on that the next few years. It'll be a slow mover.
I got a good name for you guys that we never talk about that's selling off a little this morning, but I think when the market turns around, it'll eventually probably turn around, and that's Shake Shack. They had their earnings, and they lost less money than was expected. They beat revenues. They're not giving guidance. And again, everyone's selling off today. And this stock really has yet to kind of find its way, I think. It's, not that great of a chart. It's kind of just all over the place.
My problem with Shake Shack is I think their burgers taste awful and their shakes are worse. But I've
never even had it. So
yeah, that's me. Everyone else seems to like their burgers and shakes. But
I had it when I was in Miami with Danny. I thought it was pretty good. But they're right now down $2.40, which is 3.48%, and they're trading at $66.57 this morning. And then, Mike, I know you're an Activision holder. We were talking about them yesterday a little bit. What are they doing pre-market? I think they honestly had a good quarter again.
They did. I heard the earnings too. They had a great quarter.
They're only down 57 cents this morning.
That's going to be going up. I bought, as you know, Dan, more before earnings yesterday. I'm long a good amount of Activision.
ATVI. So they, make Call of Duty, and apparently they're coming out with another series of Call of Duty in mid-November.
Great buying opportunity for our viewers is Activision here. I think I heard the earnings call, and obviously with the election coming up in this market this week, I think this is a great holding time to get in, a great entry point, because that thing is going to go on a nice run in the years ahead. They are firing on all the correct cylinders. We saw Take-Two do real well with, their earnings, and I just think they're both.
Well, Take-Two hasn't had earnings yet. They come after Activision, but last quarter.
They'll have good earnings too. Either way,
companies trade together, and I'm totally with you. They've kind of just been stuck in neutral.
Find your gaming stock. You could go with either of those, but make sure you have something, because the world we're in now, when kids are getting full ride scholarships for gaming, the writing's on the wall. That's a huge win for companies like that
too, right?
What?
Shouldn't Microsoft be in that pile?
Well, I'm talking about specific gaming companies.
Yeah,
but I'm not. I mean, dead on.
But yeah, we all own Microsoft, of course.
What about Sony, which actually I think had really good numbers?
Sony's been killing it.
Yeah.
I've never even given their stock a look. What's the ticker?
I think SNY.
It used to be SNE.
Maybe it is SNA.
I don't know. I'm looking for it. SNY is Sanofi.
Yeah, it's SNE. There's a couple different.
Yeah, SNE is the one that trades here. And that stock is making new highs as we speak.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, Mike, it wouldn't shock me if Activision turns green today. I
expect it, actually. With even where the market's down right now, with how little it's down, the way it rallied after hours when it was down huge before the call.
It's definitely it's a great company to own.
And it was interesting because it tanked hard right after the close, and then the call started and it just started rallying, and, they had a very good call. So.
Yeah, and then, I know Dad and I were talking about the whole DraftKings fiasco a little before this call started, but I think that's just a good example of how, and Dad, maybe you could talk a little bit more about how you actually do this, but how you can kind of research when there is sort of a lockup period that's about to end where insiders are able to actually sell their shares. Because here's the deal with DraftKings. It's one of these SPAC companies. There's a lot that's unknown about that right now and what goes into it. And and obviously had its insane run up to the 60s, and now it's trading at 37.50, which is just such a sad story to see. I mean, you're talking about 50% decline like in a matter of weeks. It really is. I mean, it's pathetic.
I mean, it's a sad story if you own a lot of DraftKings the last couple months.
And I do, and it's a sad story. But what I was getting at is clearly there's this whole thing going on where insiders are able to sell, and I know that happens with stocks all the time. But for whatever reason, it seems like it's happening with this stock on a level that's just uncontrollable, and it wasn't set up properly, or maybe it was, and this is just the name of the game. But
I mean, listen, there were a lot of holders in this thing. There's lockup periods. The lockup periods end, and then these people are free to do what they want. And with the tax laws that may be coming into effect, I'm sure that's influencing a lot of the moves that these people are making. Plus, you throw in that they've done 2 or 3 secondaries after the initial offering. That there's a lot of supply out there. And the last offering at $52, anyone who bought that has actually gotten smoked. I mean, they're absolutely underwater big time. So selling brings out selling, and this is a perfect example of it. When are the earnings? Because we'll find out the fundamentals soon enough.
I don't think they're for a few weeks.
11/13, they come out. So
a couple of weeks, yeah. I mean,
I can't even get on DraftKings still. They won't even let me into an account.
Well, you got to hit them up about that. But I think they probably will have good earnings, because I'm just thinking about their last quarter and how much they grew year over year without having sports. So it was literally like their growth came from just a couple of weeks, because the majority of the quarter, people weren't even able to use them.
And don't forget all the brokers on the street have got huge price targets on this thing. I mean, there's some price targets around 80.
So, but what does that really mean?
Yeah, a broker on the street that has no involvement in the stock. This thing is going at 110.
What it means is analysis of the company, to some degree, is telling them that it's got value at those levels for whatever reason.
These analysts are so just jaded.
Well, no, I mean, look, at the end of the day, DraftKings is going to be a beast once all these states eventually legalize gambling, and once people are pumped up about sports again, which this year is kind of weird, but all the things that they're doing in the partnerships, like they're doing a lot of awesome things. It's just their stock lately has been the biggest dud ever. And it's just unfortunate. Dad, you said that Spirit Airlines got an upgrade. I mean, that stock.
Yeah, JP Morgan upgraded it. They put a $25 price target and an overweight on it from neutral. And it's acting great. Yesterday it had a huge move in a crazy day anyway. And, I think when you look at the chart on this thing, it's got a lot of room. It's a question if you want to day trade it or you want to be longer term. But I like it, like I said yesterday, part of the reason because they don't depend on the business traveler. And young people are traveling. It's a discount airline. It just
when you're on those flights, it feels like you're going to fall, like literally through the floor. That's why they don't have business travel.
As long as that doesn't happen and they allow you to bring chickens and livestock on board.
Dan and I missed a Spirit Airlines flight because they didn't update the actual screen. That's the only flight I've ever missed in my life in Austin.
Maybe they should change the name to Borat Airlines and they could have those kind of people.
There's Bobby.
Just while we started talking here, Google jumped up another $28. They're now up over 8% this morning.
I might get rid of that today. I don't want to look for Google. I
would look for the stock to hit all-time highs today.
Yeah, when these stocks have good earnings, just like when they have bad earnings, they usually linger on for a day or two.
Yeah, I'll wait till next week.
And
I'm going to probably get out of Google because I just don't like rooting for a company that doesn't have our best interest at heart personally. I'm not a fan of the way they operate anymore.
All I know is Google seems to be one of the few big tech companies that kind of got left behind this big tech rally.
Well, yeah, until now. And here it is.
100%. No, I know. So that's what I'm saying. Like, look out for Google to make one of the biggest runs it's probably made in the last decade here moving forward, because it's,
well, unless Biden wins, that's going to make people sell off tech.
It might.
But he's going to Minnesota today, so that should be pretty concerning for their camp. Maybe I'm just missing something, but we'll see about
Twitter,
that.
down 15% right now.
So I think today you got to keep an eye on the stocks that had the big earnings. Apple is going to lead this market one way or the other, and Amazon, those two names. Amazon is hardly down if you really think about it. Their earnings were out. Stocks trading 31.60 from 32.11. I mean, that's like no move at all.
They killed their earnings too. I mean, This is such a great company. You got
somebody upgraded them today, $4,000 price target. So regardless of what the stock is doing now,
it must be nice to be paid a lot of money to just put price targets on behemoths that just keep moving. It's like, oh, this is going to this.
Listen,
now.
Here's the thing. When you talk about upside for companies, once Amazon has not only same day delivery, like with everything, but when you're able to get stuff within an hour, like you're able to from these food delivery apps, it's just going to be such next level explosion for them. And that's where I think the stock is still got a long ways to go.
Oh, I mean, it'll be such a big winner. It's crazy.
You got to love that they're hiring 100,000 people for the end of the year.
It's a nice Band-Aid for while this movement gets figured out. But that's what this is. They're just Band-Aiding the whole thing because they have such demand. People can't keep up. We saw that with the same day retail thing. They literally have back orders because they can't actually keep up with demand.
Well, it's not only that. There's a lot of products that just aren't available. They haven't been able to make a lot of the stuff.
You know, another stock that we don't talk about much, but we do sometimes, is Alibaba, and they have their earnings next week. They're close to all-time highs.
Yeah, that stock feels like it wants to be a $400 stock at some point. It's just kind of hovering around 300. It kind of reminds me of the way Shopify acted when it was around 600 or 700 and then just took off.
Yep, that's another company that had kind of a weird reversal yesterday where they had a great quarter. We were talking about it on the show yesterday, and their stock was up like 3 or 4% along with
Spotify.
Yeah, but don't forget, all these stocks are in the same indexes. So when Apple gets hit, that brings out sellers in all those indexes.
Gotcha.
And all these stocks get hit together. It's inevitable. And that's why Apple and Amazon are so important to the whole market. So like Apple is trading at the highest point now since the earnings. So that's going to be interesting to see if it can stay above 111 and move from there. But there's not too many people that thought those earnings were anything but good.
So Facebook just turned green slightly, but it's green, and it's up 18 cents. It's been over 500,000 shares traded, and Under Armour is flying this morning. They beat their earnings. That stock
finally. That stock, but they've been so bad for so long. It's like,
let's talk about Zoom again. This stock we've talked about
Zoom
short, and it's quietly dropped now 100 points from the high in the last week and a half.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of that was in the last few days because last week it got back up into like the 525 to 550 range, and it was really all yesterday. That stock dropped from 525 to where it is right now.
And Mom is telling me, because she uses it every day, that it was really bad last week. A lot of problems with it.
There's always problems. Zoom always has issues with tech.
Yeah,
I don't know what's going on with them.
But I keep looking at this chart and saying to myself, how can this stock not get back down to 325, just on a technical basis? And it's so hard to short because if you're wrong, it's really bad.
It's not. Dad, I've been shorting Zoom a ton. There's no reason to hold the position overnight. You short it, you set your limit. So if for whatever reason it starts to pop, you're out. But at the end of the day, like days like yesterday, you're right. Like the stock feels like it's heading down. And there's no reason to hold those types of positions overnight.
Yeah. And, there was a lot of talk. Why doesn't, Microsoft has the same business as we know, and it's got a weird name. And people were saying, why don't they change their name? Why don't they start advertising it? If Microsoft really got serious about that product, they could probably blow away Zoom.
I know. They are serious about the product. People just aren't talking about it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more people that like big companies that are starting to use Microsoft than advertised. And when is Zoom's earnings? Because let's see, Zoom earnings date is December 3rd.
Yeah, so the earnings won't even come into effect here for a while. But the day they announce the vaccine is working, the stock might be down 10% that day alone.
Yeah, for sure. And, while we've been talking here, the market is trying to rally quite a bit. I don't know what names are really moving, but DraftKings is obviously moving a little. Google, a big mover. Everything just seems like
US Steel was another one that had earnings, and they were better than expected. I don't think it was anything exciting. The stock is off a bit here. But, I think on weakness, you could still buy that stock. It's kind of like playing GE in a way, or Ford. But those stocks feel like they're going higher, and they're going to work their way higher.
And, Fastly is another one that I think today, I know, Dad, we already both own some, but I might pick some more up today because this stock yesterday got some downgrades. What?
I picked some more up yesterday.
Yeah, anytime you hear downgrades, it's a good time to jump on something.
He was on Kramer. I don't know what he said. Did anyone catch that?
Yeah, it was, I don't know, it was dull, but they're killing it is the bottom line. That company is doing really well, and at some point, the stock's going to be up huge.
Yeah, it's down 50% from a week and a half ago.
Yeah, I'm going to be buying Fastly for the first time today. I've never owned it. I was looking at that. It was impossible to get in under $70. I mean, it's appealing.
And Spotify, that thing got down to.
Yeah, I wish I bought more yesterday. That was annoying.
It was 248 yesterday at one point, and
I almost did an aggressive put option when it was under 250 and just held off.
And if you recall, this is the one I sold the 280 calls for $15.70 for November. I don't know where they're trading today, but I'm sure if you bought the stock right now and sold the 270s, you'd probably be able to pick up like 12 to 15 points.
See, that just doesn't excite me. I'd rather sell puts with Spotify.
Well, Dad,
you're banking on it just being a beast.
But wait, let me ask you, Dad, when you do sell call options against a position do you always just wait for it to expire, or will you close them out like pretty quickly if the stock is a big move?
There's a way to do that. And the thinking is, and I was talking to someone about this the other day, if you sell a call at, let's say, 15 and it drops below $1, close it out.
Of course.
Right? Because who knows what news can come out, and all of a sudden the stock jumps 20 points and, your calls are now at 5. So the risk reward is what you have to look at. Now, there's a lot of people that'll short calls at $1 when they're way out of the money. And that's a good strategy also. But for portfolio management, I think the way to play that is to cover them when they get way down.
You could short calls.
Well, that's what it is. You're selling calls, right?
Ah, okay. Yeah. But I got you.
Yeah. It's the same thing as just selling them.
That's an interesting strategy, is basically waiting for them to be worthless and then shorting them to the point where they are worthless.
I've got a bunch of Apple calls, and I was thinking about covering them today. The issue is, though, Apple, I have a 235 call for December. I mean, a 135 call that's still trading over $2.
Yeah.
Why should I even cover it? That's the other side of that.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason you would cover that is if you're super bullish on Apple and have no
right
options. But yeah, I've been trying to kind of figure out correct formula for when it's time to get out of call options when you're up on them. And I feel like I've been maybe doing it too soon.
Yeah.
Because
You have to ask yourself, who's out there buying a call at 135 for Apple at this point for December? That's trading that low, and I mean, that should be trading at like a nickel, not a couple of dollars.
yeah.
All right. Well, have a good day. Subscribe, Rolland Market Mashup, YouTube, and let's end the week on a high note here.
So